The smooth operator is out of a contract at Ferrari next year. We all know this. Lewis Hamilton is going to be taking his spot. But now the question is, where does Carlos Sainz go? What's up everybody, welcome to Car Rant. If you guys are new to the channel, we do builds, we do reviews, and we have candid conversations about cars. So if any of that interests you at all, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, leave us a like, go ahead and share this video as well. And if you guys are into behind the scenes content, go ahead and check out Car Rant Extra, where we do bloopers and behind the scenes and just all the stupid stuff that happens off camera. You can see that on Car Rant Extra. Let's dive into it. Now, if you guys are new to Formula One, you will see a ton of fantastic drivers on the grid. You'll see the likes of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris. I can name a ton. But there's one driver who has taken this year, has grabbed it by the horns, and has truly made a push to be part of the great driver conversation. Who am I talking about? That's Carlos Sainz. You can see him in the number 55 car in Ferrari. And unfortunately, this will also be his last year at Ferrari. Nice job, Fred Vasseur, because you decided to now sign a washed 7-time world champion and didn't keep the younger talent who has one more win than Lewis this year and 2 more podiums this year than Lewis. Anyways, before I dive into where he goes next, I want to take a little bit of a time travel trip back to when he first started. When he first started, he started at the Red Bull Academy. He started driving for the Toro Rosso team, which again, you can see, like I said in many videos before, as Visa, Cash App, Racing, Bulls.
Fix the name. Y'all are stupid for that.
Anyways,
Carlos Sainz starts at Toro Rosso. He becomes teammates with young drivers like Max Verstappen. Yes, this is the same Max Verstappen who completely obliterated the field last season. Max Verstappen gets promoted, Carlos stays, and while Max gets promoted to the Red Bull seat, the Red Bull driver at the time, Daniel Kvyat, gets moved down to Toro Rosso, where he also competes with Carlos Sainz as a teammate. Carlos Sainz beats Daniel Kvyat in the Toro Rosso, and you might ask yourself, well, does that mean Carlos Sainz gets the Red Bull seat now? Wrong. He goes to the Renault team where he teams up with driver Nico Hülkenberg. Carlos Sainz beats Nico Hülkenberg in the driver's standings while at Renault. And because of this, he gets the opportunity to go to McLaren. Now, McLaren had their own issues at the time. Fernando Alonso was driving with them at the time, and he decides to take his leave and he decides to retire from McLaren just because of how bad that car was. And the other driver at the time also just wasn't cutting it. So what does McLaren do? They bring in Carlos Sainz, who's had a little bit more experience in Formula One, as well as signing rookie driver Lando Norris, who still races with the team to this day. He's actually their driver 1. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, they become one of the best duos in Formula One, especially off the track, in the paddock. They have some of the best chemistry out there. First season together, Carlos Sainz does extremely well. He beats his rookie teammate Lando Norris, and he also does the following year. Carlos Sainz has gone out there, and every team he's raced for, and so far in his history, every team he's raced for, he has beaten his teammate at least one time. He's beaten Nico Hülkenberg, he's beaten Lando Norris twice as teammates. Unfortunately, he lost to Max Verstappen in his early years, but again, it's Max Verstappen. He gets a pass. It's Max Verstappen. Ferrari is noticing how well he's doing in the McLaren, and the sheer fact that he is delivering points and his sheer consistency in that car was enough to make Ferrari get this guy. Sebastian Vettel was on his way out, on his way to Aston Martin to start the 2021 season. Ferrari didn't have another driver to team up with Charles Leclerc, so they go to Carlos Sainz, a man who has shown consistency in that McLaren, and they sign Carlos Sainz into like a 2-year deal at Ferrari. And what does he do? He shows that consistency yet again in 2021. While he doesn't beat his teammate, he shows consistency and he shows that he is a solid driver. He is a truly dependable driver when you need points. Well, this is where it gets really good. 2022 rolls around. and we are introduced to the new ground effect era of vehicles. Some teams got the formula right and others didn't. And like I've said in previous videos, teams like Red Bull and teams like McLaren later on in the years, especially last year and this year, got the formula right. Teams like Mercedes and Haas didn't get the formula right. But Ferrari comes into the 2022 season and they come out swinging. Charles Leclerc wins the first race in Bahrain, and he decides to follow that up with another win in Saudi Arabia. It almost seemed that Ferrari was going to win their championship, and then Verstappen won the championship in 2022. But let's take a trip down 2022. Carlos Sainz has a pretty decent year at Ferrari, and then we get to Silverstone. We get to the British Grand Prix, where Carlos Sainz finally gets his first win.
V1, baby. Let's enjoy it. I didn't expect that one.
He gets his first win as a driver, but it also becomes more memorable because he does it with one of the most famous teams on the grid at Ferrari. The story simply just keeps on getting better. Now we move on to 2023. We go on to last year. 2023 was filled with Red Bull dominance. We can see throughout the entire 2023 season, every single race was won by a Red Bull driver, whether that was Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez. Now, there's one race that Red Bull didn't win. And what was that race exactly? That was in Singapore. The Singaporean Grand Prix happens. Max doesn't win. Sergio doesn't win. Red Bull doesn't win. The smooth operator, Carlos Sainz, strikes again, and he gets his second win in Formula One. He is the only driver to have won a race in 2023 that wasn't in a Red Bull. Let that sink in for a second. Clearly Ferrari did not think about that at all when off-season came. He's done nothing but move up, move up, move up, and move up in the ranks. He started out at a Red Bull Junior team, and he worked his way up to the, in my opinion, the most famous Formula One team of all time at Ferrari. Now, why do I say that? Why am I all doom and gloom now? Well, it's announced in 2023 that at the end of that season, right before the 2024 season, this year, Carlos Sainz will not be re-signing his contract at Ferrari. As a matter of fact, Ferrari has elected to sign Lewis Hamilton. That's right, the 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton. In my opinion, Carlos got done really dirty. This was a driver who has won his races, both with the team he was at. Carlos Sainz comes back in 2023 and produces consistent results yet again, like he always does. He also wins a race. He also is the only driver to have won a race in 2023 that wasn't in a Red Bull. And to me, that's a big thing. The fact that this is the one driver in the one car that actually didn't allow a Red Bull clean sweep to happen throughout the season. This is the one driver that was able to compete at a high enough level to beat the best team in Formula One. Ferrari decides to let him go, say we're not going to re-sign you, we're going to sign with Lewis. We're going to sign a guy who's won his fair share of championships. Lewis Hamilton is going to be a Ferrari driver next year, and Carlos Sainz, in my opinion, again, was done dirty. And now we get to my favorite part, we get to this year, and the smooth operator has just entered his villain arc. Why do I say that? First race of the year, we go to Bahrain, and we are in 2024. We are in the season currently. This guy scores a podium, first race of the year. He scores P3, and he's the only driver that, again, is not a Red Bull that's on the podium. Then he gets his appendix out, and he has to skip the Saudi Grand Prix, unfortunately, which congratulations to Ollie Behrman, who took his spot in the car and finished P7 in that race. An excellent job from an 18-year-old driver who really had no Formula One experience prior to that race. So good job for filling in for the smooth operator. Now, we get to Australia. This has to be my favorite race of the year so far. Why do I say that? Well, I'll put it to you like this. Max Verstappen's car broke and he never actually finished the race because, you know, Red Bull reliability problems in that race was a thing. And Sergio Perez couldn't get out of P6 So what does that mean? That means the smooth operator. Carlos Sainz, you got your third win in Formula One. Congratulations on the win in Australia. And he truly drove that car so well. And mind you, he's doing this a week after he got his appendix out. And he even said after the race that just like, it's not comfortable at all. It hurts actually. It's quite uncomfortable, but still he got the win. And if you thought that was good, it gets better. We now move on to Suzuka. We move on to the race that we had just watched in Japan. Carlos Sainz. This man finishes in P3. This guy gets third place again. He has been on the podium 100% of the races that he's driven in. He's the only driver that has been on the podium in every race that he's participated in. Well, we dive into all of this. We dove into his history. We dove into what happened. We dove into the fact that he got done dirty. But now the question is, where the heck does the smooth operator go? I had 4 options originally. I was actually going to start out with Aston Martin, but after the news of Fernando Alonso signing a 2-year deal with Aston Martin, and then apparently he is alluding to the fact that he's going to be working with the team even more, Aston Martin's not on that list. Unfortunately, Lance Stroll is still going to be using daddy's money to keep his seat at Aston Martin. And, well, Fernando Alonso fully deserves that seat entirely. As a matter of fact, a lot of people thought that Fernando might sign with Mercedes at the end of his contract, which that didn't happen. So that Mercedes seat is wide open. Now, I could see Carlos going here, but I don't think it would be that great of a move. They're going to prioritize George Russell, in my opinion. Now that your 7-time world champion is no longer at Mercedes, now you have the young driver that you can really prioritize at that number 1 slot. And me personally, I don't think Carlos would be treated fairly at Mercedes because of that. Now, where does that leave me with then? What are the other 2 teams that you can think of that might give Carlos a shot at an epic drive? Well, Red Bull is the next option after that. As a matter of fact, Christian Horner even made statements after his win in Australia at the fact that he's the best driver on the grid that doesn't have a seat at the moment. It makes me think that he might be trying to go for Carlos Sainz in 2025. Sergio Perez is out of a contract at the end of this year, and it would make sense that if Perez doesn't perform to the level that he has to be performing at, why not sign Carlos Sainz? Why not sign a driver that started at the Red Bull Academy and he can finally come to his full form, get into the best car in Formula One, and possibly compete for a championship? Now, my statement about Mercedes and them prioritizing George still applies here, and here's why. Max Verstappen is the love child of Red Bull. He's going to be given every opportunity to win. With Carlos Sainz being there, he's going to put pressure on Verstappen to perform even harder, and who knows, Carlos Sainz might be the teammate that Max has that might make Max crack and might give Carlos the opportunity to win his first championship. That leaves me with my last final option for Carlos Sainz, and in my opinion, the best option, and that is the Audi team that is going to be joining Formula One in 2026. This one, in my opinion, is the one that could probably most likely happen. Now, yes, the Audi team is going to come in, and they are going to come in with their own car, their own engine. Everything is going to be Audi, and it's going to be fantastic. I think they're going to have a really, really good first couple of seasons in Formula One. They're coming in 2026, and the Sauber team is still going to exist. If Carlos Sainz is okay with tanking for a year and then really making that push for a championship in 2026 and beyond at Audi, I think that he would be given the number 1 driving spot. I think he would be prioritized as a driver at Audi, and he would be the number 1 driver at Audi. If Audi does sign Sainz, I would say keep Bottas and keep the veteran who has had his experience racing at the top in Valtteri Bottas. If I'm Audi, I'm going to want a younger driver who has had the experience racing at all levels of the sport, racing for my team. Best of luck to the smooth operator in 2024. Best of luck on his endeavors beyond 2024. Hopefully he gets signed to a team that's going to prioritize him, and who knows, maybe he will win his first championship. Let me know what you guys think. Does Carlos Sainz have what it takes to maybe race in the Red Bull next year? Is Carlos Sainz the best driver that is available at the end of the season? There's a ton of drivers that are going to be, we'll call them free agents at the end of the season. Is Carlos Sainz the best of those drivers? Is he even going to win a championship? There's a lot of speculation around the fact that maybe Carlos Sainz isn't the driver to win a championship. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate y'all, love y'all. Let's be nice to each other, let's be kind, let's show some love. Have a blessed night.